Hi, I'm Chris Kennedy at Kennedy's Country Gardens. We're here in our azalea section. I just wanted to give you a general overview about azaleas. Azaleas are one of the most fantastic, beautiful flowering plants that are really known to the tree and shrub world. This is the type of plant that you see on the Masters Golf Tournament down in Georgia where they show the rhododendrons and the azaleas in bloom. There really is nothing as beautiful in full bloom as an azalea, I think. It's a shrub. And one of the nice things about azaleas is many of the varieties are green in the winter. So you have that evergreen foliage that stays there pretty much throughout the season, even in the winter, and then you have beautiful flowers that come in a variety of colors. The azaleas can be used for all different reasons. A lot of us use them in foundation plantings where we are looking for something green in the winter and to get a spot of color in the spring. And because most azaleas bloom before we can get out and plant annuals, we are kind of desperate for that color early. And they come back every year and give us that color in the early spring. Azaleas can also be used to make a hedge. It could also be used at the edge of a woodland garden to give a little splash of color in the early spring. They add also a little bit of structure. Azaleas, as far as what they prefer, they can take sun or shade, but they prefer at least some shade for best results. Really hot, dry summer sun is a little bit tough on azaleas, but more importantly, winter wind and sun is important. So they really need to be protected from that. The winter wind and sun will dry out any type of broadleaf evergreen plant such as an azalea, and particularly these can get their foliage burned a little bit. They'll usually come back and flower, but the foliage won't look as pretty, and it may take a couple more years for them to come back after a tough winter. They're also fairly brittle, so don't put them where the snow will come off the house and break them. Try not to put them next to the edge of a driveway or where someone's going to be shoveling snow on top of them. That's important. They can, like I said, they can take sun or shade, but I'd say go a little bit more on the shady side, but not too dense of a shade. They like acidic, well-drained soil. Most of us in New England have acidic soil, so that shouldn't be a problem. We would usually fertilize an azalea with something like hollytone. And when it's planted, I usually mix in a little plant magic or something similar that would add a little bit of organic matter or life to the soil. Just make sure it's not in a soggy spot because poorly drained clay soils or low spots where there's a lot of water gathering, you're not going to have as good a results growing azaleas. Besides that, they should be reliable here in New England. As far as heights and sizes and shapes, most azaleas grow more on their round side. So as you can see, most of these are fairly round. And if you're going to prune them, you'd prune them right after they flower because you want to enjoy the flowers. They usually bloom sometime around Mother's Day. So don't be pruning them in early spring or late summer in the fall. You want to prune them more towards June, right after they bloom. And you can just give them a nice, good haircut using a pair of pruners. They're pretty easy that way. As far as the habits and how fast they grow, there are some dwarf varieties. This one happens to be Bixby. There's another one called Kempo. There's a series called Gumpos. Many of them are a little iffy on the hardiness. Bixby is one that is very hardy. Most of the varieties grow in that 3 to 4, maybe 5 foot range. So we have several varieties here, and most of the varieties we sell are in that category. This one here is called Puccanensis. It grows a little bit taller. It doesn't have as much evergreen foliage. We're taping this in the spring, so you'll get more foliage on this through the winter. They drop a high percentage of their leaves, but they're semi-evergreen, as you can see. But they tend to grow a little bit taller. And there is such a thing as a deciduous azalea. And what's cool about the deciduous azalea is if you have a windier spot, if you have an area that does not get the protection from the winter wind and sun, you can still grow these, but just keep in mind that this is a much taller variety. This one can grow maybe 5 to 7 feet tall in maybe a 10-year period. What's cool about these is they come in some colors that you don't see with the regular evergreen azaleas. Evergreen azaleas basically come in whites. Pleasant white is one of my favorites, just a pure white with a nice green foliage. They come in pinks, There's one called Rosebud, which is a double pink. We don't have that to show you right now, but it is fairly popular. Tradition is probably our most popular one. That has a medium pink flower. And Blas Pink is a salmon pink flower. Gerard Rose is a deep pink flower. Gerard Fuchsia is a very vibrant, one of the most show-stopping azaleas probably out there, Gerard Fuchsia. And then there's some pinkish red ones. Mother's Day is a popular one. I believe this one's Mother's Day. What's nice about Mother's Day and a lot of these ones in the Gerard family of roses is, number one, they're very tough, and many of them have this almost shiny foliage and a nice dark burgundy foliage in the wintertime, which I think is very attractive. Let's see, Hino Crimson is another popular one. I think that one is behind me. Hino Crimson is almost a red. It's kind of a pinkish red, but it's very deep color. It's a little bit on the crimson side, I guess. And Puccanensis, as I mentioned before, is a lavender. So those are the basics about azaleas. They are fairly easy, but they are more known for their flowers. And if you get 5 to 8 years out of an azalea, you should consider yourself in good shape. If we have a really tough winter with very cold and a lot of wind and a lot of sun, you may lose it and you may need to replace it at some point, but they are great plants because the flowers are spectacular, and in many of these varieties they are indeed evergreen. Oh, I forgot to mention that some of the flower colors in the deciduous azaleas, you have some yellows and some oranges, which you don't get in the evergreen ones. And that's kind of nice if you're looking for a little bit different color. And some of the ones that were developed in Massachusetts by Weston Nurseries in Hopkinton are fragrant varieties that bloom in the summer. So that's something to look out for if you're interested in some fragrance. It is a deciduous azalea, so you won't get the evergreen, but you will get the hardiness and a little bit more height in the fragrance if you're interested in that. So that's my Green Gardener tip for the day about azaleas.